Hi everybody, it's Juliet here. Today I'm not doing a full tutorial project. I am only showing you how to do a herringbone start so that the herringbone goes all the way down to the bottom row. I'm kind of a little bit OCD, I guess, when it comes to stuff like this, and I was like, it really annoys me. They teach people to do a ladder stitch, which I will say, if you're a beginner, ladder stitch is the best way to start it, but you can see the difference here. Here the stitches are straight up and down, and they only start to go at an angle up here, whereas here they're already at an angle on the very first row. Okay, so if you don't know what a ladder stitch is and you're a beginner, this one I did 2 beads. If you're an intermediate, I would say move to 1 bead, and I'm actually going to show you a very quick way to do a ladder stitch with 1 bead. So I'll just show you quickly what a beginner would do. Okay, so a beginner, you're going to pick up your first row of beads, 2. You're going to pick up your second row of beads, which is the white. You're going to push them down. This is for beginners. You're going to go back through the first 2 beads to form like a square, and then you're just going to keep adding rows. So you would go down the white beads, you would pick up your next row of beads, you would go add them here, like this, okay? And you're just going up and down and up and down, and you're adding 2 beads at a time, okay, until you get your rows. Sorry, I just dropped something on the floor. So if you're a beginner, that's a great way to start herringbone stitch if you're just learning. There's nothing wrong with it, and to be fair, usually if you're doing like a bracelet or something, you're going to have clasp or whatever, so you might have to sew up and down these beads anyway, so you might lose some of that zigzag anyway. All right, so that's the beginner's way to start. Next we're going to do the intermediate, okay? And I'm assuming everybody that's watching this video will know how to do herringbone, but if you don't, then maybe go and watch some other beginner videos. Okay, now we're going to do the intermediate start as soon as I undo these beads. Okay. So a quicker intermediate start would be to do a single ladder stitch. And the quickest way to do this would be you pick up your whole first row of beads. So I have a 10 bead pattern here that I'm doing. Okay, so I've got my 10 beads on my needle, and push them down, and then the quickest way to do this is go up through, so towards your end bead. This is my tail that I started with right here. So the bead that I last added, go up towards it, okay, and that's going to create, like, those 2 are now together. And then you're going to do the same thing all the way along. You're going to go up through the next bead towards your last bead that you just added. So that white bead, go back towards it. And this is like actually not that quick because it takes a while to get the tension right. Okay, then again going through the white bead towards my blue bead. Then I'm going through the gold bead towards my white bead. I'm going through the gold bead towards the gold bead. And when you kind of give it a little tug, you'll see it turns into a chain of beads. And then you could start your herringbone with this. So you just keep going back towards the bead in front of it. Until you finish your chain. But the difficult thing about this way of starting it is that it's hard to get the beads evenly distributed nicely tension-wise. I mean, this will do. This is quite a good way to start it. So now I'm back at the start, and now I could just start my herringbone. Pick up your first 2 beads, go down through the white bead. So this is your intermediate beader start. And this will mean that the diagonal offset will start sooner, 1 row sooner than it would if you did a 2 bead ladder stitch. But see here, like this is not really facing the right way. It's just very hard for me to kind of get the tension established with this start. So, it's still kind of not, it looks weird here. It's okay. It's an okay way to start. Okay, I'm going to pull this out. I'll come back in a second, and then I'm going to show you how I do it. Okay, so I pulled all that out. So the way I do it is this. First, I pick up a stop bead, which can just be any bead. Doesn't matter. You're going to take it off. So, then I pick up my however many beads rows across, right? So I'll pick up my pattern. So it's going to be gold, white, 2 gold, okay, so I've got my pattern of 10 beads. You just pick up your entire width of your project, basically, okay? So now what you're going to do is you're going to pick up, this is our first row of herringbone. We're going to pick up our white bead and our gold bead and our white bead. So our gold bead and our white bead. You're going to sew down through the white bead and the next bead over. Okay? And what that's going to do is it's going to form like your first little unit of herringbone here, okay? So now you're coming out of this color and you're going into this white. So you're going to pick up your dark bead, your white bead. So pick it up in the order that it's on, okay? And then you're going to sew through your white bead and the next bead, your gold bead. And that is actually our second unit of herringbone. Now I know it doesn't look like it right now, but it is, okay? Trust me. Okay. And And don't worry if it's a little bit like funky at the moment. What you do want to do is don't pull super duper tight, okay? Because you're going to need to be able to fold this like, it's going to need to fold together. So you don't need to pull super tight. If you're a tight beader, you've got to relax, okay? So here we're picking up the bead we're coming out of and the bead we're going into, so 2 golds, and then you sew through the next 2 beads. Okay, and it doesn't look like much at this point. It shouldn't really look like much. Just make sure you're not looping around any of your other little units, okay? So now I'm coming out of a white bead and I'm going into one of these dark beads. I'm going to sew through the next 2 beads. So you're always picking up what you're coming out of and then what you're going into, which is the next bead over. Okay, so that's those 2. And now we're going to pick up coming out of a white bead and I'm going into a gold bead. So I'm going to sew down into my gold bead, and my stop bead is just really there to stop my beads from falling off while I'm doing it. Okay. Make sure that they are sitting next to the correct color. Okay, so that's the end of row 2. Okay, I know you're thinking, how is this easier? Okay, so you're gonna sew up into this white bead here. So the second that's connected to the gold bead, okay? You're gonna go towards the 2 that are above it. And don't get your work looped inside it. All right, now you can kind of see the unit once you do that. So I have to turn here because it's the end of a row. This is the only place that I do this turn is at the start. And I'll show you my favorite herringbone turn in a minute. Okay, so that's row 2. Okay, so it just looks like craziness, but don't worry about it. Okay, so you're picking up, this is row 3, we're picking up our gold and then our white. So just sew down 1 bead, just like regular herringbone, okay? And our herringbone unit's gonna sit right there. This is our next unit right here. See that? So we're going to sew up that dark colored bead right there. We're going to pick up our dark and then our white bead. We're going to sew down into the white bead. So here's our next unit. Kind of pull those next to each other a little bit. All right. So our next unit is this gold unit right here. So we're going to sew up into this sticking out gold bead right here. Now, do you see how the units are already formed? Down into my gold bead. This is my next unit here. So up into this white bead. So we have a white and then a blue. Or black or whatever color that is, down, and then our last little unit here, you're going to sew up into the sticking out white bead, and so we need a white and a gold. Just go down into that gold bead. Okay, so we've now got row 3 on. Okay, see that? So I'm going to show you my favorite turnaround. If I want to have beads on the side, actually using the bead method is my favorite, where you add an extra bead every other. So every other thing will have an accent bead. I usually use a 15-0, but basically you would just pick up a bead here and sew up, and you're ready to go. And that gives you like a little sort of picot going up the edge. But if you want a clean look and you don't want that picot, my favorite way to turn around is, so once you sew down the bead, you're coming out the second bead. I like to turn around by sewing around the thread that's right, that would be right in here. Of course, it's the first row, so there isn't one. So for this row, what I'm going to have to do is sew down. Sorry, guys. Okay, I don't need to sew down. I can just go into the bead that's beside that gold bead. My needle does not want to play with me today. Come on. There we go. So I'm just going to sew into that bead that's next to it. And I'm going to jump over here. For the rest, I'll do one more row and then I'll show you my favorite turn. Okay, so go ahead, pick up your 2 beads, go down that one and up that one. Two more. Down and up. I really love the look of herringbone. It's especially flat herringbone. It's a very delicate stitch because it doesn't have a lot of thread going through it, and it's quite airy because of the way the beads sit catty corner to each other. I think it's a really pretty stitch. Down and up. And you'll see, even though we started with a fan, it'll like start to straighten out. The more rows you get done, the straighter it gets. Okay, so my last one, so I like to go down. And then the way I like to turn around so that there's not like thread going through multiple times is I just skip underneath that thread. See how so my needle's coming out here. I'm going right under the thread that's like joining those two. So just go under it and then go back up the same 2 edge beads. So you're basically just doing like a little slip stitch, I guess. And then you're ready to keep going. So yeah, just keep going until you're done. I wasn't really doing a very good job with my tension here, but you guys can take a little bit more time than I did. I didn't want this video to be like super long, so okay. And if it helps you to go down and then up, that's fine. I just find it quicker to kind of go through both beads at the same time. It's just quicker for me. And then we do our little turn here. So we go down that gold bead, slip under that thread, and then go back up. Okay, and then you can just keep going, and you can see, oh sorry, the tension right here was terrible, but you can see how at the bottom there we have our herringbone. So I hope that helps you. If you want to give it a go, it's kind of a fun way to start because it's so messy and then it suddenly becomes a thing of beauty. So it's kind of satisfying. Okay, I'll see you in the next video. Bye guys.